In this video, I tell a story of a young female prophet, Kimpa Vita, who was born in 1684 and was executed by the church. Born in the Kingdom of Congo, now modern-day Angola, Donna Beatrice Kimpa Vita was believed to be of noble lineage. Trained as a Ngaga Marida, a spiritual medium, she later became the voice of a revolutionary religious movement, Antonianism. Inspired by visions of Saint Anthony, Kimpa Vita taught that Jesus was black, that Mary was black, and that both were of Congo origin. These beliefs emerged in the midst of a devastating civil war in a land torn by colonial interference and internal strife. She did not reject the Pope authority, but reimagined Christianity through a Congolese lens. Her teachings, radical in their affirmation of black identity and Congolese dignity, shook the religious political establishment. She challenged the legitimacy of Pedro IV, a puppet ruler beholden to the Portuguese, and rejected the European missionaries, denouncing them as corrupt and unsympathetic to the spiritual needs of Congolese Catholics. A black Jesus, a black Mary, a woman daring to speak against the powers that be? How dare she? That was how his authorities, the church authorities at the time, felt. Despite this, Antonianism spread rapidly. Her message resonated with a people yearning for liberation, not just spiritual, but national and cultural. Kimpa Vita herself was a pacifist, preaching chastity and communal harmony. Though she later gave birth to a child, something critics used to discredit her, her devotion to her faith and her people never wavered. The movement's beliefs clashed fundamentally with the European Catholic Church, and that put a target on her back. This is what led to a lot of problems later. Pedro IV, determined to reassert control, moved to crush the movement. Kimpa Vita was eventually captured near her hometown by agents of the Kongolese faction. She was tortured, interrogated, and condemned. Well, she was not 45, okay? And yes, this is a jab at the people who talk about Hypatia being 45. She was not 45. She was just 21 years old. Okay, I just have to make this clear because for some people, when you're killed, for them matters, right? If you're 45, I don't know whether for them that means that makes a difference. I have no idea. I have to do that job. I'm sorry. I just have to do that job because sometimes I watch his videos on other channels. You can watch him Google Hypatia, and the first thing that comes up, she was not 25. She's not blonde. She was 45. So I have to point and say something about this one. She was only 21, okay? This is a fact. She offered to recant, not out of fear for herself, but to be allowed to care for her son. She begged, she cried, she pleaded for mercy, not for her beliefs, but for the chance to be a mother of her child. I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine a 21-year-old, a pacifist who's never committed a crime, never committed any violence, never killed anyone, right? Never led a revolution, a violent revolution, nothing. Just a woman trying to express her beliefs in a different way. Imagine. Just because you thought Jesus was black. Just because you thought Mary was black. Imagine, they tell you, that's a blasphemy. You need to stop. This is very bad. You have to stop. You have to recant. And you say, okay, sure, I'll recant. Okay, I'll recant. And then please baptize me I'll recant. I won't teach these teachings anymore. I get it. I'm sorry. You apologize. You beg. Please spare my life. Let me take care of my child. By the way, they have the option to just keep you in prison, okay? That's an option too. No? But no mercy. Instead, she was burned at the stake as she was charged with heresy. No baptism. The baptism was denied. Think about it, right? I thought Christianity was about repentance. I thought it was about forgiveness. I thought that if you beg for forgiveness, you'd be forgiven. And she didn't kill anybody. She didn't do anything wrong. She didn't even try to overthrow the regime in any way. She didn't encourage anything. She was not a traitor, she was not a spy, nothing. Just simply because she said Jesus was black, right? I will say it, just because she said Jesus was black. And Mary was black too, looked like her skin color. That's what caused this problem. Christianity is not about salvation, the Christian institution. It's about power. You see, the problem is that if they can force you to believe, they will force you. That's how Christianity works. If they can force you, they will find a way to force you. It's not about voluntary conversion. Maybe in the past at the beginning. It's forceful conversion. Christianity, in its institutional form, has long been less about preparing souls and salvation in the next life and more about controlling bodies and people in this life. The behavior of Christianity is the best way to describe it. It is sort of like a narcissistic abuser, okay? Imagine a spouse who professes love and compassion with one hand and inflicting psychological and physical violence with the other. You know, during the day they're smiling. One of my friends told me she's a domestic violence survivor, and she told me that her husband would smile. And yeah, I'd seen the guy before. Like, he seemed to be a very kind guy. You would never think this guy is an abuser. Never in a million years. But yes, he was an abuser. Okay? And what he would do is just smile, be nice, and say, I love you, and whatever. And then all of a sudden he would change and become a violent person. Then he would become an old person again, then a violent person. It was a cycle of violence and abuse, or mental anguish and abuse. And this happens because this guy was a narcissist. Okay? Christianity tends to act like that. When its power is threatened, Christianity retreats into persecution complex. We're being persecuted. Look at all this. Look at how we're treated. We're insulted. There's a lot of talk out there about how Christians were being insulted, how Christians are mistreated. Okay, hold a second. Wait a second. You're the guys in power. What are you talking about? But yeah, you hear it a lot. Because persecution complex just means people are pushing back. People are saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to tolerate people trying to control our bodies and trying to control us when we have our own lives. Just leave us alone. Leave us the F alone, right? When you say that, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. They cry and say persecution. Or I'm being persecuted. Yeah? I'm being persecuted. Why are you treating us so badly? Just because you're refusing to listen to the message, okay? Or you're refusing to comply with their unreasonable demands. And when they regain complete control, Christianity shows no mercy. They're going to treat you like Kimpa Vita. They're going to treat you badly, and that's just normally how Christianity operates. We are familiar with Christian martyrs. We all know them, right? You can name them. A lot of them. We know about Paul being killed in Rome. Peter apparently was crucified upside down, although that's a tradition. But, we know that 10 of the 12 apostles were martyred, apparently. And One died of old age. Stories go that they tried to kill him, but they couldn't, so they just exiled him. And we're told all this stuff. It is enshrined in memory. Even non-Christians, at least where I come from, know these stories. But we forget, or we were never told, about those who suffered at the hands of the church. And there are many more. Okay? I'll name a few ones, and there are going to be more. I'm going to post more of the stories. Because my goal is to share what happens when people have power. Power always has to be shared. It doesn't matter if a religion preaches love and peace and so on. Once they gain power, abuses begin. You see this all the time. It doesn't matter how good they are. As soon as they gain absolute power, they become abusive. They realize, oh, we have power, so we can do whatever we want. People don't know about Hypatia, Giordano Bruno, Kimpa Vita. I am 90% sure that most of you have never heard of Kimpa Vita, right? There are others that I'll be talking about more. I'm not going to give you the names. I have a lot. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of stories and reading about these stories. There are many others who were persecuted by Christians, either forced to convert, imprisoned, tortured, at the behest of church officials and missionaries. And we just don't know who these people are. Okay? Because the church has worked very hard to cover up this. I've told you how they did it with Hypatia. I've told you how Giordano Bruno was executed. Now I'm telling you about Kimpa Vita. Kimpa Vita's execution is one of the saddest because she's a teenager. She's literally a teenager. I had a lot of ideas when I was young, and I can't imagine being executed for those ideas. Many of them were wrong, and I don't agree with Kimpa Vita's religion and beliefs, okay, but it does not mean that she should have been executed for it. Kimpa Vita was executed by order of Pedro IV at the urging of European missionaries. Her movement, Antonianism, was militarily crushed, despite them being peaceful, by the way. Survivors were forced to convert or be killed. Power corrupts. Even those who preach love and forgiveness are not immune. When I speak to my Christian brothers and sisters, I always tell them that Jesus' three temptations, all three temptations, were about power, and he refused to use it. And in the third temptation, he didn't need to worship the devil to take over the world. He didn't need to do that according to Christian theology. He is God. He does not need the power to do that. But he didn't. He didn't use his power to take over the world. But Christians do the opposite. They use their power to influence legislation, to force people to meet their demands, to inflict extreme cruelty that you wouldn't even imagine, and then stick the word label love on around it. It's completely the opposite of what Jesus did. That's why I say that Christianity is corrupted by power. We must not forget the crimes committed in the name of God, nor should we allow history to repeat itself. There are those today who long for a return to an era when the church wielded unchecked power over society. Be careful what you wish for. The late Dr. Tim Keller, may he rest in peace, was talking about how he longed for the days when people would come into the churches and they were filled up, and he would talk about this. And apparently this was good because people would have all these discussions and good for society questions. But was it? Was it really good? I have a lot of respect for the late Dr. Keller, but I think he was wrong on that point. I don't think so. I think society was worse. Power must always be shared. Rights must always be protected. No one should ever be killed for their beliefs, especially not a 21-year-old woman whose only crime was daring to imagine a world where God would come. Some say Christianity was spread through love and persuasion. We're told that all the time. I had one guy, I was hearing one apologist. Islam was spread with a sword, I was told. This is what they tell. Sorry, my Muslim friends. I don't mean to. I'm just trying to say what I hear in the communities. Okay. Islam was spread with the sword. People were forced to conversion using the sword. That's what we're taught about Islam. And Christianity was all about love. It was people just went out and through persuasion, through gentle persuasion, that's how we got the Christian theology that dominates the world today. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's a lie. It's a lie. And the way Christian history is taught, the way we are taught that Christianity brought all these nice things into the world, that it was always peaceful, and that, yeah, we made a few mistakes, such as race-based slavery, such as colonialism, such as genocide. We made a few mistakes. This is proof that history is taught by the winners. Okay? But today, we have the opportunity through this medium, through this social media medium and other mediums, to tell the stories of Kimpa Vita, of Hypatia, of Giordano Bruno, and there will be others, and I will tell their stories. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a good time, everybody.